Chosen ones, these dark phases are the key to your spiritual awakening. There comes a moment in your life when everything collapses. The world no longer makes sense. The people around you seem distant. You wake up, and there's a heaviness in your chest, a silence in your mind that's not peaceful, it's empty. The things that used to bring you joy now feel meaningless, and the thoughts that once gave you comfort now haunt you. You wonder, am I broken? But what if I told you you're not broken at all? What if I told you that this darkness, this confusion, this unbearable silence is not the end but the beginning? You see, we've been taught to fear the dark. We avoid it, we medicate it, we deny it. But for the chosen ones, the souls destined to awaken darkness is not an enemy. It's a sacred teacher. It's the threshold between the life you've been living and the truth that's been waiting for you all along. And I know, right now, it might feel like you've been abandoned, but you haven't. You're being initiated.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
The world you lived in before this phase was a dream, a sleepwalk, a story written by others' parents, society, expectations, fears. You played your role. You smiled when you were supposed to. You chased success, love, validation. You did everything right, and yet something inside you remained unsatisfied. That's not failure. That's your soul whispering, that's the call. And the chosen ones, we are the ones who answer it. But here's the thing most people won't tell you. Awakening is not beautiful at first. It's not light and peace and floating on clouds. It starts with destruction. It feels like death, because something is dying, the version of you that was built on illusions. And that death is sacred. The pain you feel is sacred. You are not alone in it. Every awakened soul has passed through that fire. It's the rite of passage. It's the cosmic reset. I remember my own dark phase. I lost everything, not just things, identities, achievements. Friendships I thought were unbreakable. Beliefs I thought were eternal. There were nights I cried so hard I couldn't breathe. Days when the sunlight felt like an insult. But what I didn't see then was that something deeper was happening. The universe was stripping away everything that was false so that only the truth could remain. And that truth is who you truly are. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you sat in silence, not to escape, not to distract, but to listen? Not to the noise of the world, but to the quiet hum inside of you. That hum. That's your being. That's your spirit calling you home. But most people never hear it because they're too busy running from the dark. But you didn't run. That's why you're here. That's why you're still listening. What if, instead of trying to escape the dark phase, you entered it fully? What if you treated it like a sacred cave where ancient truths are hidden? What if you sat with your pain not to fix it but to understand it? Because inside your pain is a map back to your soul. Every tear, every ache, every sleepless night, it's guiding you. It's breaking open the shell of who you thought you were, revealing the light that has always been hidden underneath. And yes, it's terrifying. Because awakening means letting go of control. It means letting go of certainty. It means standing naked in front of the mystery of existence and saying, I'm here. I don't know what this is, but I'm willing to find out. That takes courage. That takes the heart of a warrior. And that's exactly what you are. Let me tell you something wild. The universe doesn't choose the comfortable ones. It doesn't choose the ones who stay in safety. It chooses the ones who are willing to lose everything to find what truly matters. The chosen ones are the ones who fall to their knees and rise again, not because they want to, but because their soul demands it. And you wouldn't be here if you weren't one of them. Do you know what happens when you finally stop resisting? When you stop trying to fix the darkness and instead feel it? A doorway opens. Not outside of you, inside. a doorway to a presence you forgot existed, a presence that watches your whole life with unconditional love, a presence that isn't afraid of your anger, your sadness, your confusion. That presence is your divine essence, and once you touch it, even for a moment, everything begins to change. You start to see that your pain was never random, that your loneliness wasn't a punishment, that your sadness wasn't weakness. It was your soul's way of getting your attention. It was the universe whispering, "Wake up, there's more." And that voice, you start to trust it. You start to follow it. And slowly, the dark becomes your teacher. You begin to walk with it, not against it. And in that space, something magical happens. You begin to remember who you really are. Not the version of you that performs, not the version that pleases, but the eternal being who came here with a purpose. And that purpose, it's not something you chase. It's something you are. Your presence is the purpose. Your truth is the gift. And the dark phase, that's what carved it into you. So I ask you now, what if this pain is not a mistake? What if it's a sacred invitation? What if every moment you've spent in the dark was actually preparing you for the light you're about to carry? You are not lost. You are being found, not by others, but by your own spirit. And that is the most powerful thing that can happen to a human being. The chosen ones don't escape the dark. We become it. We integrate it. And from that place, we shine not with borrowed light, but with the fire we forged inside our own brokenness. This is your initiation. You're not weak, you're being remade. You're not falling apart, you're falling into truth. And the truth is, you are divine. You are powerful. You are exactly where you need to be. Now, are you ready to step through the next doorway? The fire that burns away everything you are not. There comes a point in your journey after the initial shock of darkness, after the unraveling of what you thought was your identity, where something deeper begins to stir. It's not a return to who you were. It's not a recovery. It's a reckoning, a confrontation, a standing in front of the inner fire that now demands something from you, everything. Not your possessions, not your ambitions, not even your beliefs. It demands everything you are not. And if you are brave enough to stand still, it will burn it all away. You start to notice how much of your life has been a performance. How many of your choices were made to be accepted, to be loved, to be safe. You see the masks you didn't even know you were wearing, roles you thought were your personality, but were actually just armor. And now, in the heat of this fire, they begin to melt. The persona you built to survive no longer fits the soul that is emerging. And it's terrifying. Because if you let go of all you've been, who are you? That question becomes your new compass. Not a question of the mind, but a cry from the soul. Who am I really? The fire answers not with words, but with silence, with stillness. It doesn't give you an identity. It strips you of every false one. And in that unbearable emptiness, something begins to glow. Not a new belief, not a new label, but presence. Pure, raw, unfiltered presence. The you that existed before the world told you who to. But let me be honest with you, it's not gentle. Awakening is not a soft whisper. It's a storm, a sacred demolition. And this fire, it doesn't negotiate. It doesn't care about your attachments. It doesn't care about how long you've held onto a story. It will take what is not true, and it will reduce it to ash. And you will grieve it. You will grieve parts of yourself you thought were eternal. You will mourn the illusions that once brought you comfort. That is part of the process. That grief is love meeting truth. Some days you'll feel like you're losing everything. Some nights you will question your sanity. But hear me now, you're not going crazy. You're waking up. You're dissolving into your essence. And what's left after the fire? Something unshakable. Something no one can take from you. Something that doesn't need validation because it is truth. That's the version of you that your soul has been waiting for. The fire doesn't just destroy, it reveals. It shows you what's real. It shows you who truly supports you. It shows you which relationships were built on truth and which were built on control. It shows you where you were betraying yourself for the sake of being accepted. And in that light, you begin to reclaim your power, not the power to dominate, but the power to be radically, unapologetically yourself. And here's the twist most people miss: the fire isn't outside of you, it's inside. You are the flame. You are the furnace of transformation. You are not being punished, you are being purified. And the more you surrender to that inner fire, the more something ancient awakens within you, a memory, a knowing that you came here for something greater than comfort. You came here to become the living embodiment of truth. So now I ask you, what are you still clinging to, even though it's already crumbling? What story are you still telling yourself, even though your soul is screaming to let it go? What identity are you still trying to protect, even though it's suffocating you? The fire is not here to hurt you. It's here to set you free. But freedom doesn't always feel like joy at first. Sometimes it feels like loss, like disorientation, like standing alone in the ashes of who you used to be. But in those ashes is a seed of something so sacred, so real, it can only grow in the soil of surrender. And when it blooms, you won't recognize yourself, not because you've become someone else, but because you've finally remembered who you've always been. And that, my friend, is the gift only the fire can give. Not a new version of you, but the original, the eternal, the you that doesn't need to prove, defend, or explain, the you that is enough simply by existing. You are not here to be small. You are not here to survive. You are here to burn, to be consumed by the truth of your own light, until nothing remains but love, freedom, and presence. And that journey? It's just beginning. The sacred silence that speaks louder than words. After the fire has done its work, after it has scorched the lies, melted the masks, and reduced the false self to ashes, what remains is not immediately peace nor clarity. What comes next is silence. A vast, echoing, almost intimidating silence. And for the first time, you're not trying to fill it. You're not reaching for distractions. You're not scrambling to rebuild an identity. You're just there, empty, still, listening. And in that silence, something extraordinary happens. You begin to hear, not the noise of the world, not the chatter of the mind, but the voice beneath the voice, the presence beneath the personality, a stillness so alive it vibrates, a presence so ancient it feels like home. And this silent presence doesn't speak in language, but in knowing. It doesn't explain, it reveals. And suddenly you realize this silence is not empty. It is full of wisdom, full of love, full of you. This is one of the most misunderstood phases of spiritual awakening. Most people think transformation ends with the fire, with the breakdown, the letting go. But that's just the clearing. The real transformation happens in the stillness that follows. When you no longer have a script to read from, when you're no longer playing a role, when all you can do is be, that's when the soul speaks. And if you're quiet enough, you'll hear it. But this silence can be terrifying, because there's nothing to hold on to, no drama to distract you, no identity to perform, just you and the infinite. And that confrontation, it's not for the faint of heart. Because in that sacred silence, you begin to see the truth, not just about the world, but about yourself. You start to see where you were out of alignment, where you betrayed your own heart, where you lived small to feel safe. And it hurts, not because you did something wrong, but because you realize how long you've been asleep. Yet this silence doesn't judge. It doesn't punish. It simply reflects. It shows you what is. It holds up a mirror, not to shame you, but to invite you to return, to remember, to reclaim the voice you silenced long ago. And in that quiet, you begin to sense something sacred, You are not broken. You never were. You were just buried. And now, piece by piece, you are uncovering the real you, the one who doesn't need to be loud to be powerful, the one who doesn't need to prove to be worthy, the one who doesn't need to be seen to be real. And here's the subtle paradox: the deeper you go into that silence, the more alive you feel. The more you stop speaking to be heard and start listening to understand. The more you stop reacting and start responding from a place of deep knowing. The ego thrives on noise. The soul thrives on silence. In the silence, your intuition sharpens. You begin to feel guidance without needing signs. You begin to make decisions not from fear, but from inner alignment. You begin to trust yourself, not the you that was conditioned, but the deeper you, the eternal you. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you sat in silence and actually enjoyed it? Not because you were meditating for a goal or praying for an answer, but simply inhabiting the space of your own being. That is the sacred silence. And it's not passive, it's alive. It's the womb of all creation. Every vision, every truth, every step forward is born from that stillness. And if you can learn to befriend it, not fear it, it will become your greatest teacher. We live in a world that runs from silence. That fills every second with noise, distraction, stimulation. But the chosen ones? We move the other way. We walk into the quiet. We sit with the discomfort. We listen, even when it reveals things we'd rather not see, because we know that silence is sacred. That silence is God. That silence is where the soul begins to sing. And soon you begin to realize something strange. You're no longer seeking answers. You're no longer desperate for signs. You've stopped chasing. Why? Because you've become the answer. Because the silence has taught you that everything you were searching for was already inside of you. The peace, the love, the clarity. It was never out there. It's been here in the silence all along. So now I ask you, can you sit with yourself, fully without distraction, and feel your own presence? Can you let go of the need to be anything, do anything, achieve anything, and simply be? Because in that moment, that sacred moment of surrender, you're no longer becoming. You are. And that presence, that's the most powerful force in the universe. This is the space where the next phase begins, not from effort, but from resonance. Not from striving, but from stillness. The sacred silence is not the end, it's the beginning of true creation. The birth of a new self, living as the awakened one. There comes a moment, quiet, almost imperceptible, when something shifts inside you. After the fire, after the silence, after the endless undoing, there's no dramatic explosion, no grand announcement. Just a still moment where you realize you are not who you used to be. The grief has softened. The noise has faded. The old self is gone, and in its place, a new self rises. Not a better version, not a perfected identity, but a self that is true. A self that was always there, hidden beneath layers of conditioning and fear. This is not a return, it's a rebirth. The awakened self isn't loud. It doesn't need to prove anything. It moves differently, not from urgency, but from clarity. You begin to notice how naturally you say no to things that once drained you. How effortlessly you walk away from relationships that no longer resonate. Not from bitterness, but from alignment. There's a deep inner yes, guiding you now, a compass that doesn't come from logic but from presence. And the more you trust it, the more your life begins to shift around you. You're no longer trying to manipulate outcomes. You're not chasing timelines. You're not fighting to be understood. Why? Because you understand yourself. You've met the real you, the one beneath the masks. The one who has walked through the fire and stood in silence and come out the other side, not with answers, but with presence. That presence becomes your power, and people feel it. They may not understand it, but they feel it. They sense something different, something grounded, something real. Living as the awakened one doesn't mean you're always at peace. It doesn't mean you never feel pain or fear. It means you no longer identify with those states. You witness them. You allow them. You flow with them. But you don't become them. You hold your center. You return to stillness. And in that way, you become a lighthouse not by effort, but by essence. This new self sees through illusions. It doesn't get caught up in drama. It doesn't need to defend its worth. It simply is. And from that being it creates, not to impress, but to express, not to compete, but to contribute. Your life becomes an offering. Every word, every action, every breath becomes part of a sacred dance between you and the universe. You're no longer asking, "What should I do?" but instead, "What wants to move through me?" You begin to live in alignment, which means your inner truth and outer actions begin to match. There's a coherence, a harmony, and it feels like freedom, not the kind the world sells you, but the kind your soul has always known. You're no longer playing roles. You're not performing. You're not shrinking. You're not pretending. You're simply showing up, and that in itself is revolutionary. But with this awakening comes responsibility not to be perfect, but to be present, to be real, to walk with integrity, to speak truth with love, to stay rooted in your knowing even when the world tries to pull you back into forgetfulness. Because let's be honest, the world will try. It will tempt you with the comfort of your old self. It will seduce you with the safety of the mask. But you'll feel it now, that subtle dissonance, that quiet inner protest. And you'll know, "I can't go back. I've seen too much. I've become too much." So instead, you walk forward, not with certainty, but with trust, not with a blueprint, but with a deep inner compass that says, "This way." And that's all you need. You're no longer seeking the path. You are the path. You are the living expression of awakening. And your life, your ordinary, sacred, messy, beautiful life becomes the message. You are not who you were. You are not even who you thought you'd become. You are something entirely new, born in darkness, forged in fire, awakened in silence, and now alive with truth. Welcome home. You are the chosen one. And now you know why.